I'd like to share my personal testimony, and I must give all glory and honor to my Father, our Father, Abba Yahweh, and to his precious, precious Holy Son, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. My testimony begins the year 2000. It was around the Y2K time frame, and I know that because I was working for a company and I was doing documentation for the Y2K project. So it was probably around the November, December time frame, 99 going into the year 2000. I know I spent a lot of hours. It was crunch time, and we needed to make sure we get our systems reviewed. And so I spent many hours working, at this business doing this documentation. So one morning I drove in a Isuzu Trooper, and it's a kind of a boxy vehicle. And and you'll understand why that's relevant here real soon. But I was on my way to work, and just a normal day, as normal as any normal day would be. And I was on the freeway, and it was probably around 8 o'clock in the morning. I would consider it rush hour traffic. I mean, traffic moves 60-ish on the freeway, 55 to 60, pretty steady. And there was ice on the road, a little bit here and there, black ice. And again, I drove in a Isuzu Trooper, a boxy vehicle. So as I'm on my way to work, I'm on the freeway, and I'm doing, the normal temperature. I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say temperature, speed. And so I'd say I was probably doing 55, 60 miles an hour. And I ended up, there was a vehicle, from what I can recall, that was pulling into my lane, and I was in the far left lane. And I was trying to see, there's probably, going the direction I was going, there was 3 lanes on each side of an impact wall, and then there was 3 lanes going the opposite direction, which was north on the other side of the impact wall. I was driving my vehicle to work, and as the car started to pull into my lane, I moved over onto the berm, and when I did, my tire hit black ice. So I'm starting to slide a bit, and of course I get a little panicky, and I hit my brake, and well, at that point I started to swerve, and I overcompensated, because it was pulling me into the traffic. So I overcompensated, and when I did that, I lost complete control of my vehicle. So at this point, again, I'm still going 55, 60 miles an hour. Only all I can really remember is that it all happened so fast, is that the vehicle turned so that instead of going south, now it's going north in a southbound lane. So I'm facing the traffic as it's coming at me. And I remember seeing, probably a car distance from the vehicle that was in front of me at this point, I see a man, and at this point, the only way I can explain it is everything started to move sort of in slow motion, because my vehicle was moving quick, very, very fast. But I do see a man coming at me. I see his face, and I see he's panic stricken, and I'll never forget. I don't think I will ever forget his face. So I try to, again, compensate and turn my wheel sort of sharp so that I miss him. But when I did this, again, I'm crossing 3 lanes of traffic. By this point, I have flipped my vehicle, and I crossed through 1 or 2 or 3 lanes. I don't remember, probably 2 at this point, where my vehicle was actually flipping from rear, to trying to think how to explain this, from the front to the back. So, and then I landed. When I actually crashed, I crashed into the impact wall. So I'm dangling from my seatbelt. My head is going towards the ground at this point, and windows are shattered, and it was a miracle that I was alive. But I sort of remember it. I remember it happening. It felt like it was in slow motion, but I know it wasn't. I know it happened very, very quickly. And I know people say that you remember kind of like your whole life history or whatever goes before you. And I do sort of remember things. It's like, wow, again, it's like everything slowed down. And I was thinking about, my family. I was thinking about my kids. And I had 3 young children. But I do recall at some point that as I'm dangling, I'm able to move. I think I'm partly unconscious, I'm conscious, but I'm not quite conscious either. And I remember that there was a woman that she went over and she was, calling for me. And then people started pulling off the road because I heard voices around me and I could hear people talking around me, but I wasn't able to respond back to them. So I remember hearing a couple of men say, get out of the way, we need to wait for the ambulance. And then someone saying, we need to get her out. She's hanging from the seatbelt. And they were trying to do what they can, but at the same time, I could hear I heard another conversation where somebody was saying, well, she's never going to make it. There's no way she's going to make it. So, and again, I don't think they had any idea that I was able to hear everything that that was being said around me. At some point, I was cut out of the vehicle. The windows were shattered, and they were able to unbuckle the belt. I think the emergency squad, the ambulance was there, and the police were there, and whoever the jaws of life that cut me out of the vehicle, that they got me out. And I must have been unconscious because, again, they were talking as though I was already gone. I could hear people talking as if there's no way she's going to be able to live through this. And while all this was going on, I could hear everything happening. And my eyes started to, open a bit. There was a woman that had taken a blanket out of her car. It seemed like it was a new blanket. And she had, covered me up. And that was about the time that the ambulance was getting ready to put me, I guess, into the ambulance. There's so many activities seemingly happening at once, but that's what I recall. And I went to they asked me for my husband, asked me for a phone number, and somehow I was able to get out my husband's phone number, and they took me on to the emergency room. And then when they did, I was back in the emergency room, and not long, I was coming, I came to, and then they, they did x-rays and so on. But I really give God the glory because when I went in and they had cut my clothes off and everything because I had glass shattered and, all over me. It was all in my hair. It was all in my clothes and so on. And so when they took me back to check me out and they x-rayed me, I did eventually come around. So I did have a concussion, a mild concussion at that. But when I got there, I could hear people in the emergency room saying, this is bad, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm not going to, maybe I'm not going to pull through based on what I'm hearing other people say, but I give God all the glory because I ended up leaving the hospital several hours later and with only a mild concussion and a little bit of a fracture in my wrist, and it wasn't even bad. So the emergency staff was quite amazed to see me just get up and leave the hospital. I was released to go home. So again, thank you, Jesus.